Hey guys, has this lockdown made you lose track of your fitness goals? Are you starting your resolution for 2021 and you want to lose weight but need some help? Introducing my affordable workout plans for men and women. With packages starting at $5, this offer can't be beat. Go to radicallatino.com to find out more. Hey guys, do you have a product you want more eyes on? Advertise with the Radical Latino Show, where over 10K podcast downloads and the number 25 spot on the 55 All Latin podcast list. You'll want your product heard on everyone's phones and cars. Go to radicallatino.com/contacts and start advertising today.
Playing the Radical Latino Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands in the air for New York's very own.
Radical.
Latino is taking you to another level.
Radical Latino, you're buffing it.
You hear that? It's like the post in the street. A hole in the chest.
Yo! Welcome back, my people. Welcome back to the Radical Latino Show. It's your host, the Radical Latino, aka number 17 on All Latin Podcast, aka Mr. Unsuable, for the 26th week running. I hope everybody's doing great. I hope everybody's doing good. If I have a few listeners in Texas, like the homie Morena, hopefully you guys are doing well with your electricity issues and your snow issue. You know what I'm saying? Apparently, global warming or global cooling, whichever one it is showing they ass right now. So, shout out to everybody in Texas. Hopefully you guys get through it. Even though some of your politicians are saying peace, it is what it is. Hopefully you guys get through it and just hold your head up. You know what I'm saying? That most definitely just hold your head up, right? Also hope everybody is doing well with this whole C19 thing that's going on. Hopefully y'all good. In most places is open. If not, then just keep your head up. I know it's about to be a year that everybody's been locked up or crazy and only things are limited, but hopefully it'll be over very, very, very soon. You know what I'm saying? Very soon. But anyway, I hope everybody is doing well. Now a couple of updates, as I always do. A couple of updates. As you guys might know, if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, right? And I'm talking about for the people on my podcast, you know what I'm saying? Y'all subscribe to my YouTube channel. If y'all should know, I was doing some live streams, you know what I mean? Some random live streams, last minute. It's been getting some good reviews, some good, people were climbing into the room and stuff like that. So I want to give a big shout out to y'all, you know what I mean? A huge shout out to the people who support, who come in, and it was very interesting conversations that we were having. So definitely go to my YouTube channel and go check those live streams out. One of the live streams was me pretty much breaking down the debate. I don't even it should be called a debate. The argument, the discussion, the fight between Andy and Noel, basically Chivo and Rancho, so it was a fight that was going on, and I was just reviewing it, and to my surprise, Rancho came into the room and started, breaking certain things down and stuff like that. And I do commend him that he came in respectfully, you know what I mean? For the most part, my views of him has not changed, but I did gain some respect for him, because he actually went up in there respectfully, and we had a wonderful discourse, and me and we were just basically just talking, you know what I mean? And nobody got heated, nobody started cursing at each other, because there's no point. And something I pointed out in that live stream that I was breaking down, something that I pointed out was, whenever you're in a debate or discussion or whatever the case is, make your point make your argument, prove your point. Once anybody, either yourself or anybody else, goes off script and start, insults, name calling and stuff, you automatically lost. If the other person does that, you won. If you do that, you lost. Automatically, because you have abandoned your argument and now you're resulting into low-hanging fruit ad hominem attacks that doesn't prove your point whatsoever. It turns into some junior high school shouting match that basically, it basically doesn't even turn into something that everybody wants to hear. It just turns into like some roasting session, which is bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So that was my point on it that I pointed out. And the thing is, I'm glad that me and Ancho, we stayed civil when none of that stuff happened. So big ups to him on that. You know what I mean? So go check that out. Also, I'm gonna start doing again, like I said, some dating streams, some dating live streams and stuff, about relationships and stuff. So I want to see how you guys resonate to that. Hopefully you guys like it. I'm not out here, you know what I'm saying, wasting my time. You know what I mean? And also I'm gonna read some emails because I have been getting some emails on relationship advice and stuff like that. But anyway, let me go real quickly and read some of the comments for episode 130. This is episode 131. If you want your comments read for next week, go to YouTube. Under this episode, write your comment on what you think or on anything on the episode, and I will read it next week. So for episode 130, I got Truth Teacher here saying that's messed up, that you wouldn't allow Dominican Renaissance in your issues because he's black. Oh, and all that. Yo, shut up. And the funny thing is, I thought I was gonna get a lot of backlash for this type of episode. Not having other people in your business. I thought I was gonna get a lot of backlash, but apparently I didn't get it at all. Some people were questioning me, which I had to basically break down, because I didn't make it vague, but I pretty much explained it, but not explained it 100%. And there was a lot of people that were saying, well, if that's the case, that you don't want, you want to stay on your own or whatever, why you talk about black issues? So the thing is, I talk about issues that affect black and Latin people. I haven't specifically, for what I can remember, spoken on black issues. And if I have spoken on black issues, it's just for a bigger picture and context, just so I could give my point of view. But the thing is, I've never said that other people cannot speak on our thing. I never said that other people aren't able to speak on our issues or whatever. The thing is, if we want to resolve our issues, we have to do it in-house and come up with a plan in-house, and then open the doors for outside people to ally with us and help us achieve that solution. That's all I said. And I think it's a good strategy, but you guys will let me know. Morena says, okay, I did not miss too much. You touched on some really good topics, especially the woman in Central Park. I do not believe anyone touched on that incident. You should have a discussion on that, how Karens abuse the privilege and use it against brown and black people, on their effects on us. Absolutely. Also, I'm working on a video on something recently that happened, and just look out for that, especially on this type of comment, about these Karens out here. You know what I'm saying? James says, Xtino from Latino leaves a clickbait in which for whoever shall abide by a new name, does it not? I really don't know. Frank says, my man's used on fire. Respect. Shout out to you. Stone says, Mextino could be a new name for Latinxers. Maybe. We gotta really come into the play and see what's up. Terrell says, do you have a Snapchat? No, I do not. I do not use Snapchat. I'm not even thinking about being on TikTok. But I might be on TikTok. Who knows? Let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what happens. Moreno says, wow, this guy forgave a woman who could have made him another hashtag. Absolutely. He's referring to the Central Park Karen that basically, not saying got acquitted, but she nothing really happened. Nothing really happened, which I voiced my opinion, which is complete BS, But anyway, so let me just move on with this interview, and I'm so excited and happy that I had a chance to speak with Rosa. Rosa's been in the activist game for a long time. She's been in many movements. She's brushed shoulders with many people. She's even started a lot of organizations that helped a lot of Black and Latin people together as a whole. So I'm very excited that I even had the opportunity to have an interview with her. There was a lot of people before I got in contact with her that was telling me to do an interview with her, and I got the opportunity to do one because one of my friends attends the college that she went and did a seminar with, which was a virtual seminar, and only people who attended the college was able to attend the Zoom. So my friend registered me, gave me the link, and that's how I was able to get into that live and even ask some questions, which I was very honored into having done. So if you guys don't know who Rosa Clemente is, she's a former vice president, Green Party nominee, activist, journalist, writer, a Latina soldier, you know what I'm saying? And also an executive producer for the new movie that's on HBO Max right now, Judas and the Black Messiah. So she was there as executive producer. She actually definitely put her input in the movie and put her her stance on certain things that was accurate and certain things that wasn't accurate. And me and her basically speak on the things that happened throughout the movie, if it's what was changed or whatever the case is. Again, I'm very lucky to have her on. Also, she got on the scene, before I forget, she got on the scene because she wrote this letter that made it to the Nation of Islam, called What is Black? And I think you guys could find that online. I'm gonna see if I could try to find it. And that's been what she claims that it hasn't been one of her amazing works, but it wasn't one of her amazing writings for what she said from other interviews. But the message still hit. The message still hit, and it was resonated. So without further ado, here is the interview with me. And oh wait, hold on, before I even go, I'm sorry, a little small disclaimer. I recorded this interview on StreamYard, and I have no idea, within maybe a couple of minutes into the intro of the interview, my mic, I don't know what, either is StreamYard or my mic, I don't know what it is, but it went janky a little bit, and I sound muffled. I try to fix it, and I fixed it as much as I can, and you guys can still hear me, but I do sound somewhat muffled, so I just want to give you guys that disclaimer. Rosa sounds fine, 100% as always, but I do sound muffled in my speech. So with that being said, I just want to give you guys that disclaimer. Anyway, here's the interview with me and Rosa. Enjoy. Yo, what up, my people? It's your boy, the Radical Latino. Now I'm here with a very special guest. My guest is a community organizer, independent journalist, activist, and was also the vice president running mate nominee for the Green Party. And I would like to introduce to you right now, Rosa Clemente. What's going on?
Was good. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. You are a very prolific figure in the activist realm and community, you know, and you've done a lot of work which, you know, I'm trying to at least try to do, you know what I mean? But as long as we both help each other, you know, rise to the top, I think that's a little bit that's all that's, you know, the good, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so Rosa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm an organizer, independent journalist, producer. I ran for vice president on the Green Party ticket in 2008, and a professor. I've been teaching in colleges on and off for a while as I finish getting my PhD and my doctorate this year.
Okay, and I know you grew up in the South Bronx. How was that?
I grew up in the Bronx in the 70s, and it was the Bronx was burning. It was even today there's poverty, but that was extreme poverty. A lot of family. I was 5 when the 1977, one of the it's still the biggest blackout in New York City happened. And when I was like 7 or 8, my mom moved us because she wanted us to just have better public schools. But to this day, a lot of my family still lives there. My dad still has his business there. And, you know, I was also growing up as hip hop was being created through the lens of my cousins who were a little older than me, you know, would take me to like roller skate parties and park jams and all of that. I was younger, so I probably didn't realize like, oh, this is happening. Although like a lot of folks in hip hop, the pioneers didn't think it would be where it's at today. You know, you can't, you know, anticipate something like that. But
yeah, that's crazy that you actually were witnessing birth of a history.
Yeah,
that's insane. There's a lot of misconceptions about the birth of hip hop. A lot of people say that Latin people had nothing to do with it. Other people say Latin people did have something to do with it. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, specifically, who the people who created the culture were Puerto Ricans, African Americans, and a lot of Jamaican and folks from what was called the West Indies. So at the Latino tip, it was Puerto Ricans, you know?
Yeah.
Eventually, there would definitely be like all types of other hip hop artists, Mexican, Cuban, Guatemalan, all that exists now. But the beginning of that, and the reason why was because at that time, New York City was also bankrupt and there was a lot of gang violence, but also that was one of the epic peaks of Puerto Rican migration. Like,
yeah,
my parents migrated from Puerto Rico and New York. There were no other Latinos. I mean, there was some Cubans for sure. And I'm sure like a Mexican here and there, but like 94% were Puerto Ricans at that time. And we lived next to and we're in community with African-American brothers and sisters. So like, that's part of why that culture was created from there. And as well, like the solidarity that we've always had, particularly as African American Puerto Rican people in New York City.
Yeah. I know you said that you grew up around the time when the Bronx was burning. For those who don't know, that was a very prolific time in New York City where landlords took advantage of the disenfranchised people, and basically, you know, kicked them out. But I've read some articles and statements where they will actually blame some of the residents for that burning. Is that true?
Yeah, they did. But eventually, you know, what came to be known through like commissions and history and stuff was that they were burning the buildings to get their insurance.
Yeah.
And there's an actually really good documentary that came out last year called Fire in the Bronx. And it's the entire history. It documents the history of these fires, but it's also documenting like the relationship with Puerto Rican and African Americans. It's online at PBS. Like I tell folks really watch it to understand that. And also that at one point the fire police stopped going and stopped responding, so that people did die because the landlord sets the building on fire. Y'all still living there, and the fire people don't go because they're overworked and they're racist, and all things together happen in that time period.
Yeah, which is actually very interesting because that was an occurrence that was happening almost either on a daily or every week.
Yeah.
And people didn't really pay attention to it until I think was the Yankee game that was televised. And the camera panned over and they saw a huge building burning. That's when it actually started getting some national attention.
Yeah. Oracle Cell was talked about that a lot. And there's another documentary, or Yankee documentary, that talks about that night specifically when you could see the fires burning. So
wow, that's insane. And that basically goes into the things that you grew up in, to the point where you started your activism work. What made you start actually becoming an activist? What made you start catapulting yourself into the line of work?
When I went to college, I was already no, I wasn't. I'm sorry. When I went to college, I really didn't know a lot of like my own history. I never had heard of the Black Panther Party or the Young Lords. And again, I grew up in New York. So, and where my mom moved us to was only 30 minutes away from the Bronx. So like, I didn't grow up with none of that information. I really didn't understand why Puerto Rico was a colony.
Yeah.
I just didn't know anything. I mean, I knew what I was as a Puerto Rican. I was bilingual. My mom and dad made sure we knew about Puerto Rico, our roots, our family, our culture, and all that. So I was always like, knew I was Puerto Rican. But when I went to college, and there were, in the early 90s, there were, most of these campuses are still predominantly white, but I went to a public university. So it was definitely more like diverse in the way I ended up growing up. When my mom moved us to the suburbs, like white folks, Black folks, we were the first Latinos, I wasn't one of the few Latinos on college, but I definitely had a different way of dealing with white people.
Yeah.
And part of this, because I grew up around them, and in this little village, we all knew each other. We all went to school together. We were all like cheerleaders, track, all that kind of stuff. Our families knew each other and stuff. So I didn't go to college like, not treating white people, but like I wasn't going to take any racism from white people, because I was like, I grew up around these people, like I know what they are, and you just need to shut them down, and obviously there were other people that hadn't experienced that and were like, we don't want to start trouble and all this kind of stuff, but then I became more politically aware by joining organizations, and the one that I joined, the Albany State University Black Alliance, like it changed my life. And I went and I became a member, and then I ran for a position. Then I eventually became president of it. So I ended up being like the first woman and first Puerto Rican president of that. And by that time I had been politicized like intellectually, and all my professors, which is, it's so weird that you don't get that experience now, 30 years later. Most of my professors were Black women professors who were well known within Black studies throughout the country. So they taught me, and I kept taking classes, and so I became politicized. And also I chose to take like leadership development classes. So by the time I graduated from SUNY Albany in 95, then I went to Cornell to get my master's in 96. And I wrote my thesis on the Young Lords Party and the COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program. I finished. I worked in Albany for a couple years. I was a legislative aide. That it's a reason why I know the ins and out of like New York State politics, because I worked there for 2 years as two assembly people's different chief of staff. And then I went to New York City. I started teaching in middle school, everything I wanted to do. But that was the beginning of New York City beginning to send police officers and safety officers into schools. And I couldn't, I didn't like the way, I didn't like any of that. And I was like, I'm not trying to work somewhere where like our kids are criminalized. And at that term, the term school to prison pipeline didn't even exist. So me and a lot of my friends became teachers right when all that was beginning. And all of us ended up leaving the New York City public teacher system, because we were like, yo, you're gonna be arresting 8-year-olds when they have tantrums. Yeah, and that's what happened the last 20 years of public school education, whether LA,
Wow.
Chicago, and New York. I didn't want to have anything to do with that. So I became a community organizer around housing issues, and then worked with my organization, Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, around political prisoners, and then worked around the fight to get the United States out of Vieques, and always to this day do work around our political prisoners and prisoners of war. So for me, I had to go to college in New York State to find out who I was and then be involved, because I don't call myself an activist. I'm like, an activist is like, you can sign a petition and not you're activated, but organizing,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And also like the training we did, a lot of it is based on self-defense too, and self-determination. And like, we're not going to be the ones that are going to let like police run up in our community and just start arresting people. So all those things I learned, in a very short amount of time. Like I would say 90 to like 10 years later, I was full on in the movement in many different spaces, like now today in a lot of different spaces.
What was the most eye-opening thing that made you actually start this thing, start this movement, or start your work?
I was as I was a junior, I had just been elected to be president of the Albany State University Black Alliance, and a week later, LA was burning. The Rodney King rebellion happened. So there were 4 officers who brutally beat this brother Rodney King. It was the first time ever in the United States of America where you saw clear video footage of the police doing that. By then, everybody, I'm sure that was in movement work, the LAPD are just straight monsters and gangs and criminals, the way they would treat Black people, especially in South Central LA. So like I woke up and it was like LA is burning, and you see a rebellion for like 12 days. African Americans and a lot of Latinos were tired of like white officers beating, getting away with murder, sometimes using chokeholds, crazy stuff. And LA rebelled for like 11 days. So, and that's what you saw, 24-hour coverage around the LA rebellion. That was the first time I was like, okay, right. Why am I even learning like about police brutality, in school, and then, seeing LA rebel like that? It wasn't like I hadn't watched footage from the 60s, because by then I have become a Black studies. But in our generation at that time, the hip hop generation, that was a really big turning point, a big moment where we're like, oh, this whole thing is systemic, So that, and it was also the first time I ever led a march in a community, because even though we were at SUNY Albany, New York is just like pretty small. And there's a very large Black community and Latino community here that are super repressed and oppressed. So that was that. And then the one thing I remember from growing up around race was the Central Park 5. So Donald Trump had taken out ads all over the state of New York, but a lot in the Bronx, Harlem, and even Westchester County, where he put the faces of them and he's like, they need to be executed. So like people now think they know because they saw When They See Us, which is phenomenal, and everybody should watch it, about the Central Park Five on Netflix, but you should see the documentaries, because really them 5 boys, you know, they were boys. The way they were being treated, having Donald Trump put on billboards, New York Times ads, like execute them. And then when I got back to the city for a long time in 2000, the case kind of started coming up again because they were finding out that the police coerced these brothers into that. And then I think it was, I want to say 2002, 2003, here it comes out, the DNA is finally tested and it hit someone else, one person. And the lawyers for the Central Park Five went to visit him and he admitted he had done the rapes.
Yeah.
But even with that, the city, it took them another, 14 years to apologize to the brothers. And just recently to get they won their lawsuit 15 years ago and they just finally got the money, you know, so like, you know, and people know now the Central Park Five and thriving. And, you know, if the state of New York had the death penalty, they would have been executed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And was putting out, was bring back the death penalty to quote monsters like this.
Yeah, I have a small issue with the fact that when something happens, we get compensated, you know, with money. I think more than that needs to be done. Some of the cops that were coerced in this whole situation need to face, you know, some stiffer penalties. Other people need to get locked up and go to jail, because things that happen to those 5, you know, brothers is insane. It's not something that should be done, you know, and I don't think no type of money will actually change the trauma that occurred to them, you know?
Yeah, it never changes that, but in doing work and our our police brutality work that we have done, we always center the families. And the families eventually will get some type of lost money. That's just the way the state works. The state would rather give $40 million than to admit like 2 dead cops did this and 2 lives were retired. Because one state, you know, so it's always a very personal decision, you know, like none of us, unless you've been through it, can understand that. And like Central Park Five, you know, even after they were out, they could never work. They were seen, and to this day, some people still think they raped her, and she thinks they raped her.
Yeah.
You know, so first, like that's what the cities will pay hundreds of millions of dollars before they do that. So that's absolutely correct. The second part is like they deserve that and way more, and their families, for the hell that, you know, got put through them. And that some of them, you can tell when they talk, you can tell some of them have been able to be like, okay, and move forward a little bit. They've all moved forward, but some of them, a couple of the brothers, are very, to this day, traumatized, as they should be.
Yeah.
You know, they all come out of it different. Like how they all came out of prison is different. One of the brothers, Corey Wise, who was the one the police got, like, basically because he was 17, they were telling him, like, you about to go, you know, you might not even survive the trial. They were threatening him. Now, what happened with Corey is the other brothers were still juvenile. So all of them served out their sentences in juvenile hall. But Corey then was moved to an adult prison at 19. And what it is he was repeatedly raped and beaten badly. People need to watch When They See Us, because the brother who plays Corey Wise is Afro-Dominicano. And that's why he won all the awards. If people haven't seen it, And on this one, like at one point they're all together all the time, even in juvenile detention. Then all of a sudden Corey is by himself and ended up spending 7 more years than they did. So you could see in his face and he's traumatized to this day.
Yeah.
He has
No.
Yeah. It's a. I tell anybody, especially when I'm teaching, I'm like, you will not understand New York or this criminal injustice system unless you understand the Central Park Five.
Yeah, I've been a victim of police brutality, of stop and
Yeah.
frisk when that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple times I had cops put their knee on my back, not on my neck, but on my back, and just for walking home, at a certain time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've experienced those type of things in the hand of cops. I've For the first time that I've ever been touched inappropriately was from a female cop who thought that I had drugs under like in my underwear or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
th- those are the type of things that I've went through and I've experienced. Do I see white people as evil? No, but I do see the white supremacist system as a corrupt system, as an evil system that made it possible for these people to do such a horrific thing and do it with impunity. So I
And
definitely I
you'll never forget it.
yeah. Of course. So that's the reason why I do the work that I do. My main message is always for Black and Latin unity. And I do find a lot of retractors. No, it's okay. I do find a lot of detractors when it comes to that type of talking point. When I'm trying to unite Black and Latin people, a lot of the people that say we don't need to unite are either some white Latinos. You know what I'm saying? So, what are your thoughts on the Black and Latin unity, and what are your thoughts on how to strengthen that bond?
Well, yes, there's always inter-ethnic conflict, but I think the main thing is people don't read history. They don't understand that Black African American folks, Afro Black Latino folks, other Latino folks we've always been in solidarity with each other, period. Like, it's real easy for people to be like, oh, Puerto Ricans don't get along and Dominicans don't get along, or so and so is anti-Black, as opposed to really seeing the history and how we have always worked in solidarity together. Um, and that people have to understand that ethnicity and race and our national identity are even different for every Latino. So the history shows we've always been in solidarity with each other. What we're seeing now, we are in solidarity with each other. But unfortunately, because we don't have we don't really have a good media, mainstream media, Latinos are just never mentioned in the news unless it's like immigration or something
Yeah,
criminal. And flip, now we're seeing obviously a more embrace because of Black Lives Matter around like particularly African American people, particularly African American women, which has been a long time coming. But I've always been in a space of being, well, as a Puerto Rican, I've been more accepted in like the Black study spaces, the Black organizing spaces, because I know who I am and what my identity is within a quote Latino construct, whether it's an organization or an event or whatever. A lot of times they'll reach out to me and be like, yeah, but can you not bring up race, or like, we know you're Black Puerto Rican, but isn't it Black and Puerto Rican? And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not the person for this event. You might need to find somebody else. And I
yeah,
do that way more and more. But for me, it has been Black, quote, what people think Black spaces and Black organizations, Black media has always embraced me way
yeah,
more than Latina, Latinx media. And now, because I've been on the forefront of defining as Black for like 20 years, and now it's becoming real trendy to be like,
yeah,
oh, I'm Latina, and I sell hair, or I look at my food or how I dress, and you're like, that shit's all superficial and has nothing to do with Black pop, like the
yeah,
politic,
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's just how I've
Why
always. world.
Yeah. Why do you think some Latin spaces are so divisive?
Because they have colonized minds, like our lands were colonized and their minds are
Mm,
colonized. And there's a lot of, especially like Latina women that are not necessarily like white or white passing, but a lot of these folks also want to claim like their ancestor heritage of like rape and colonialism. So, you know,
yeah.
like I embrace my Africanness as much as I embrace my Europeanness. And it's like, why do you even have to say that? Like, why do you like whiteness is always accepted?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you want to talk? You're like one third indigenous, one third white, one third
Yeah.
black, everybody in the world. Like, not you just, you got your mind is colonized. You haven't done your own internal like revolution. And who the hell in their right mind would ever accept their conqueror? It's like telling women, yo, after your rapist does his time, you should find a way to have common ground.
Yeah.
Like, will we ever ask that of a woman or a man or
Yeah.
non-binary?
That makes no sense. Yeah.
Right? So it's this weird, like, we're the perfect people because we're all one third this. And it's like, no, that shit you're saying right there is anti-black. Like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and then also in Latin America, which this is the thing. Look, I'm from the Caribbean. Puerto Rico is like, we're not even geopolitically part of Latin America, but we're in the Caribbean, right? So Latin America is a whole different beast in itself because their whiteness is the goal. And the only way you get to whiteness in Latin America as an indigenous or African descendant person,
mixing.
no, that maybe, but money.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like money. That's what makes you a Latin.
Yeah,
And also,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
none of these countries use any of these terms. Like, there's
Yeah.
no Latinx being used anywhere in Latin America or the
Yeah.
Caribbean. We don't use, people don't use Afro. They say they're African descendant. Some now are saying in Brazil, they'll say they're Negro, Black. Even in Mexico, there's a category for Black, and like 1.8 million Mexicans in the last Mexican census identified as Black Mexican.
Yeah. I've seen I've been through different spaces and very different panels that either I joined or I was just a viewer of, and I've seen something very interesting happen, especially in the Latin community, where, like you said, they are embracing their colonizers. They're talking about, I am primarily from Spanish descent and all this other stuff, because of their DNA breakdown of 62% European or something like that, right?
Yeah,
So
everybody's all doing that now.
yeah, yeah. So why do you think the romantic? Because there's a couple of people that romanticize Spain, and they say that it's a. I'm gonna go into conspiracy theory here, but they say the reason why we have vitriolic, amnesty for Spain is because we've been fed a liberal lie of what Spain did, which I know is 100% BS. So why do you think they have to do that and romanticize Spain to the point where they have to justify why they calling themselves Hispanic?
I mean, because they see themselves as Spanish and white. They see themselves as European, no matter what they look like, and that's what they embrace. I mean, it's interesting because in Spain, and I've been there, right? Like, when we start traveling there, like, first you're like, this shit is white, especially Madrid.
Yeah.
Like, they're in Spain, they're not gonna like accept like, no, in parts of Spain, like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Dominican, I'm Mexican. To them, you're Black.
Yeah.
And then also that Spain itself, right?
They're very racist.
Was part of slavery.
Yeah.
What it's Portugal, Spain, and the British Empire. Those are the people, three countries that or British Empire, meaning the islands too. But look, it's just, it's hating yourself. It's like what Malcolm X said. Who taught you to hate yourself?
Yeah, our colonizers. Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And then there are parts of Spain where the Roma people have been incredibly marginalized and are,
Yeah.
or Seville, where you begin to see darker Spaniards. Why? Because you're closer to the Mediterranean Sea. Why? Because you get on a boat and you can go past the Rock of Gibraltar to Morocco. And also, there's been a lot of immigration, and that ends up in Seville. So it's just, I always am like, well, why do you have to, like, why do you have to affirm your whiteness? Like, whiteness is affirmed everywhere. You don't have to do that. It's okay. Like,
Yeah,
you got it's
yeah.
also
Like
logical.
it's I don't know if you're aware of this. I just got aware of this pretty recently, where certain Spaniards they have a name for Latin people and Caribbean Latin people. They have a name called sangre sucia, or
Right.
dirty blood. Um, I wasn't actually, I was not aware of that whatsoever, but later on I actually became aware of that. Um, and it's really funny how some of these other Latin people in some of these spaces ignore that. They completely just ignore that, and they don't see no issue with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about your work with oh, before I go into that, no, let's just go into it. Let's talk about your work with the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, because you were a researcher in that, right?
Associate producer. Yeah.
Associate producer. Okay, got it. And you did you have a lot of input in the movie?
I had a lot of input in terms of like a couple of things. I got a couple calls from the set about the young lords and, like what would they wear, how would they stand, that kind of stuff. But my
Gotcha.
work in it was I'm the person that connected the writer and director. His name is Shaka Kane, the co-writer and director, because there's another co-writer called Will Burson. But Shaka, we know each other through this collective called Blackout that Ava DuVernay and Ryan Coogler and Charles Keene started. People know obviously who Ryan and Ava are, but Charles Keene is pretty much like the hit maker right now in Hollywood. He's
Yeah.
one of the few Black agents back in the day, and now he has his own company, and it's committed to straight telling our stories. So Shaka reached out to me. I was like, yeah, I talked to Fred all like once in a while. I said it's going to take a minute. I said on top of it's going to take a minute because people have tried to make this movie in the past, like Antoine Fuqua and a couple Denzel Washington's production company. Like it wasn't the first time, quote, Hollywood came knocking to Chairman Fred and his mother, Comrade Okua. So it took me a couple months, but we got the meeting, and from there it was like a 3-year journey. So I've been part of the whole journey. Definitely helped, like in the way of just being like, yo, you're gonna have to earn, and you're gonna have to earn their trust. There's nothing I can do about that. You're gonna have to earn it by talking to them, seeing them, letting them know what's going on with the movie, all the way to I had suggested that Fred be on the set, and he was every day of the film production. And I got to go to the set one time for 2 or 3 days. And then post now the movie dropping, like we're all doing our interviews and all of that kind of stuff. So there's a curriculum coming out that I'm part of, like a curriculum for young folks. Teachers and all that. Yeah, so I've been involved from the beginning, not on the production, like how a movie gets done.
Yeah.
And realize, okay, this is a big movie. There's like 200 staff people here, and it was a big movie. It was a 40, maybe I would say $30 million movie.
Yeah.
And if anybody's seen it yet, as soon as you start watching it, you're like, oh, the visual, the cinematography, the director, like it's on point. So it's an incredible experience of many like affirmations, and then people having major critiques on it, which I'm like, bring it. And also like Chairman Fred is out here doing all the interviews. And he has some issues with it, but
really?
But well, yeah, I mean, of course he's going to. It's not even a biopic. It's not. I'm telling you, it's not a documentary. It's not even a biopic. They are inspired by true events, right? And Fred having disagreements means struggle, and he struggled with the filmmakers or other people involved. So but ultimately, him and Mother Conrad Akua greenlit the movie. And when they were on the set, Fred would be like, yo, nah, that's not working. And him and Shaka would talk, or then Shaka would be like, yeah, I'm not going to take that note particularly, but let's see how we can fix this. So it was like a labor of love and struggle, but in the best way, best way.
Because I wanted to ask, in every movie, there's obviously going to be some changes. Is there anything that you could give us? There were some changes that actually didn't happen in real life, but occurred in the movie?
No, per se. I mean, pretty much everything you see, I'm I'm just like running the movie. Pretty much it's accurate, or a lot of it, like the last couple of scenes are based on police transcripts and stuff. I mean, Mother Akua didn't write poetry, so there's a scene there, and it's a beautiful scene. And actually the sister Dominique, who played the scene, gave Shaka a note, like, what would it have been like if she was a poet too? So Dominique gave that note, and that happened. The Young Lords were represented. I wish they were more represented, but the Rainbow Coalition was representative. Yeah. And I think people watching are like, wait, y'all, he was working with all groups, and we're like, yeah. And that's why he got murdered. Deputy Mark.
That shocked me. Yeah, that shocked me a lot when I saw that.
Yeah. Deputy Mark Clark was also killed, and everybody is forgetting to mention him. That he was there, things like that. Some people say that William O'Neill has more screen time, and he does. This is showing the last 16 months of Chairman Fred. It doesn't show that at 14, he became an organizer with the NAACP, you know? And Shaka Keen, anybody could read any interviews. He's like, I kind of Trojan horse this, right? Like, yeah, William O'Neill is there because I don't think Hollywood would have made a movie all about Fred Hampton. And some people disagree with him, and some people are like, nah, that could have happened. But seeing this whole process in 3 years, you're not gonna get a real 100% movie about Fred Hampton. Like, we need to start now doing documentaries or shorts or even animation on who Fred Hampton was, Chairman Mark Clark, who are elders like Chacha Jimenez is still alive as the founder of the Young Lords. Like, why aren't we interviewing him or telling the stories of our elders? So yeah, again, it's a movie. I think it's great. I am happy with it, and I got a couple comrades that are social media critics. They're like, this all centers O'Neill. This is terrible. And I'm like, everybody, like the way we roll. I'm Fred rolls like this. Bring on the critiques, because we can take them on and be like, no, actually, you're right about this. Don't make your own movie about Fred Hampton and everybody else.
I get you. Like, because when I saw it, mind you, I saw it twice. And I when I saw your name on the credits, I was like, oh, I know her. You know what I mean?
I saw about 3 years. So
So no, when I saw the movie, there was one thing that I've noticed. Usually in these type of movies, again, they like to add little things here and there, but there was no white savior.
Yeah, that. Although the white agent had a little humanity to him.
You could.
You should explain COINTELPRO, and it's funny that Martin Sheen plays J. Edgar Hoover. People don't know Martin Sheen is like Mexican, which to me is always fascinating. But I'm like, they should show more of the evilness of him. Yeah. But there was no white savior. That's, unfortunately, we all know how it ends. Well.
It's very telling with the whole COINTELPRO type of style that they did. The false the false news reports, the false pamphlets, that were being
Yeah.
put out. So these people
Calls.
so these people can fight amongst themselves.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane that I didn't know how deep those type of things actually, went on and actually were.
And that William O'Neill wasn't the only snitch. All movements were infiltrated by that point. And currently now, movements like Black Lives Matter and they're also infiltrated. Like I
Yeah.
straight know two people that I'm like, these dudes are snitches. And I don't know what,
Ah.
like, and I know it because I've been trained by my elders to spot that out. And I had
Yeah.
a very, very real experience in two organizing spaces where one was definitely a snitch and didn't admit it, but then a second one was and admitted and actually wrote a book. And it was
Really?
organizing in New Orleans after Hurricane Maria. And when I saw the FOIA request, like my name was in it and other ones, because he was working with the feds for years. Post Hurricane,
Wow.
he went to Minneapolis, and when I was running, and we were in Minneapolis we were in the Twin Cities against the RNC. Seven white guys got arrested for planning some type of disruption at the RNC. And it was his name is Brandon Darby. Everybody should look up. He's admitted it. He set them all up to be arrested.
Oh.
So that they could then institute like a part of martial law for all of us that were protesting the Republican National.
Wow.
And then in general, like I said, I compete people, and I'll tell younger people like, yo, be careful with this person. Like it doesn't make sense for somebody to disappear and then just show up a year later. Because everything unfortunately gets infiltrated. We don't have security. Like even when I was in Malcolm X grassroots movement, you can't just join. Like 3 other people have to know you. Hence why Malcolm X grassroots movement has ever been infiltrated. Because we all know each other, not just as organizers, but we know each other's families, where we come from and all that. And to just make this like the most present day connection, this white woman, Natasha Banan, who for 15 years pretended she was Puerto Rican. The story broke about 6 weeks ago, where she put out a letter admitting, well, actually the article came out and breaks it all down. And it's like, she's a white girl who was born in Kansas. She up in Puerto Rican spaces for 15 years saying she was Boricua. The minute it came out, what happened? What happened was that now there's mad dissension and paranoia for mad Boricuas that do work around independence or island or, community work. So she accomplished her goal, which was to disrupt. Now, everybody I've shared this with, other Boricuas, they're like, I don't think she's a snitch. I was like, then why was she at 2 CIA leadership retreats? I found it and I posted that. And then people were like, what the hell? I'm like, listen, every infiltrator is not going to look like William O'Neill and be like giving out war plans. But there are those who disrupt things. And once you sow that disruption and chaos, then you hoodwinked an entire community for 15 years. There will be no consequences for you. You just can't ever show up. So go be the white girl that you can be now out in New York City. But also, she's a lawyer. So she might have like a full-time lawyer that was working on issues around Latino issues. So she also violated New York State ethics, and she's probably going to lose her law license. And then there's some people that were like restorative justice. I'm like, that only works if someone's accountable for their behavior. She doubled down on why she did this and should not be like exiled from the Puerto Rican community. She's never really said she was sorry. I'm like, why would we want to give someone like, she's a grown 45-year-old woman. She knows exactly what she's been doing. And no, again, the feds aren't coming to our doors, but every space now, everybody is like cautious. And if you're cautious and kind of start going down the road of paranoia, then you won't ever be in movement because you'll always think like, I don't trust it. You know? And
Yeah, yo, that's crazy. How do you prevent something like that? How do you peep it out?
I mean, for me, again, because of my training like that, like the last space I was in there like that, I knew and I walked away. And, you know, I knew right away. And again, that Brandon Darby, the way to prevent it is organizations have to be more secure. Like, you know, mad people will rep Black Lives Matter who aren't the founders and have nothing to do with BLM because it's out there, like it's out in the zeitgeist. So now people can use it. Depending on the organization, like I said, you got to do like just straight community people's background checks. Like I told one of my girls, we were talking about this. I'm like, yo, from now on, I need to see a birth certificate from Puerto Rico. I was like, none of these chicks are getting in. Anyway,
That's funny. That's hilarious. That's funny.
I need to know all of it. I need to know your family, where you went to school. I want it all.
I want all your friends, your mom's maiden name, everything.
Yeah, especially if you're going to be part of organizing over like, you know, where we're just not going to be marching, where we're doing like really organized efforts to like upend systems. So I'm like, it also depends the space. I'll be like, yeah, nah, that person's suspect. We can't be around them.
Gotcha. Before we start wrapping that up now, I got just a couple of more questions, and then we could just do our thing. I've noticed that ever since I have gotten in, you know, a little bit more woke, as some people would say, I've noticed that the term, you know, I don't like to use the word Hispanic, so I just use Latin or Latino, whatever. You know, we are basically in a weird gray area when it comes to race. We're defined as an ethnicity, and I don't know if I've ever heard this before, but I started to say that we should start fighting to be classified as our own race. What do you think about that?
No, because Latin is not a race. Like Latino is
no,
not.
Of course.
Yeah. No. I mean, I consider myself a Black Puerto Rican, so really I am Black. So
the reason why I even brought that up, and let me just break it down, is because there's a lot of Latin people that are confused. They put themselves down as white, but they know themselves that they're not white. Other people put themselves down as Black, but sometimes they get some backlash from people who actually see that they're putting themselves down as Black. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I said, if we actually start classifying ourselves our own race, maybe that will stop. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I disagree. The main problem is that we're not in the census. There's no category for Black, like Black outside of what American, you know, origin. Obviously, you can cross off Puerto Rico, but all the categories of quote all of us as Latinos, you can't do race. That's the main problem. Now, if Black, Latino, Latinx were on the census, millions of us would easily identify with that. Yeah. I mean, race is a social construct anyway. Why would we want to construct another race?
Yeah. You know? no, that is true. That's the reason why I said, like, if we're making up races like Black, white, and Asian, let's just start making everything up right now, you know. And I
think that worked in the past, but the reality is, it's a construct, but it's a lived reality. If you're brown in this country, white people could do anything to you and get away with it. I mean, they can take over the government and get away with it. So, you know, my identity is important, but it's really my politics. So, like, it's not there's another Black Puerto Rican and they're for statehood that I'm like, you could be my comrade. No, you can't. I don't care if you're Black Puerto Rican. I don't care, you know, how Black you are, indigenous, if you support Trump. Vice versa, like with identity, it also is like, there are white people out here who actually sacrifice their lives to Black struggle and are committed to that, you know? The main thing we've always told I don't do too many trainings like that anymore. But the one thing I would always tell my students who were white, I'm like, well, you don't need to be guilty about how you're born and the privileges you have. You have to do something about it. That's like, you're going to be white and you're going to have privilege. Just like a light-skinned Latina, if she doesn't open her mouth, have an accent a lot, is
Yeah.
going to be seen as white until someone finds out that she's not
Yeah.
American white. And it's
Yeah.
also the imageries. We're not saying no. It's 2020, and the only Afro Latino Latina that we know of in mainstream media is Sunny Huston on The View, which is really good because she really does always talk about her identity and how it shaped her. But she's the only one, or like Telemundo and Univision still put out the most racist imagery around Black people, and you're supposed to be talking to an entire, quote, large Latino community. Well,
Yeah.
all the whiteness on your shows are not only erasing those of us who are Black, it's erasing indigenous heritage, languages,
Yeah.
and cultures.
Yeah.
So in 2021, we still struggle to even be talked about outside of statehood for Puerto Rico and immigration for Mexicanos and Central Americans. Not to talk about all the issues. And COVID to me is what I tell people now, like, listen, COVID is killing more Native American Latinos in general, African Americans. Why is that? Because we don't trust the system, because all of our people at one time have been experimented on by the medical system. So that's one. But also, like, at the end, yeah, white people are getting the vaccines more. They're white. The general society of like these 78 million, mostly white people. Yes, Black men voted, Latino men voted, but 53% of white women still went and voted for Trump and could have made him president again. It's just like, people right now have to understand, if you are not white, they're coming after us. Period. Yeah. They've made that clear.
Yeah.
So, like, what identity? So important. Identity is very much about, it's a very personal thing. But once you do that, what work are you doing outside of just talking about identity? Who are you aligning yourself politically? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those are the things that you have to be asking yourself to, like, move forward and struggle, or you'll just get like, I don't know who I am. Well, find out and then do the work.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. Damn, I got to go back to the drawing board on that one.
Yeah.
No, I get you. One last question. What do you think about certain Latin people joining white supremacist groups like the Proud Boys?
Oh yeah, there's Black dudes in there. There's women in there, right? Like, look,
it bugs me out. I'm like, wait, why are you? You know what I'm saying? Like,
they hate themselves, they hate their family. They have bought into this entire white fantasy.
Yeah,
that's what it comes to. Like, look, when Charlottesville happened, I noticed that one of the guys, I was like, yo, that dude's Latino. Like, and then I kept watching him, and it comes out his name is Alex Ramos. He lived in Atlanta. Started beating this brother in a parking lot. And then the other people came, and they almost killed this brother by beating them to death while the cops watch. As that was happening, that car ran through the crowd and killed Heather Heyer and wounded so many other people. And I wrote an article like, I'm a Black Puerto Rican, Alex Ramos is a Puerto Rican white supremacist. And I talked about that, and it just comes down to, like, you hate yourself, your people, your family, and now you feel you're egreged as not just a Puerto Rican. I mean, really, why are all these groups predominantly men? Because those type of men are feeling that their male identity is being taken from them. Not only their white identity, their men. Oh no, now you can't just, whistle at somebody, a woman. No, you can't be a sexual harasser. No, you are gonna have consequences if you rape somebody. Like, those type of men feel under attack like that too. Those type of men are like, what now? You're queer. What is that?
Yeah.
What is your LGBTQ? Look, all those white men, which include Trump and all his people, all the way down, they literally feel like somebody, the rest of us are taking something away from them. That's what
Mm.
it's coming down to, and they don't like it, and they feel
Yeah.
under attack. But the way they attack is by straight trying to take over and lynch the vice president, and they're still, most of them aren't arrested. That's,
Yeah.
like, people really
Yeah.
have to understand that's where these white boys and that mentality, and it's going to be here for a minute. Like, Biden and Harris can't root that out.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of I don't know, this dissension from that whole Biden and Harris type of thing, and I feel a little, so I got a little bad taste about Kamala Harris learning her history in California,
Yeah,
but
that's,
hopefully some change does come. You know what I mean? Hopefully
yeah,
some change does come.
it won't come from them. Like
Yeah.
last night, Joe Biden said in the town hall that he did on CNN with Anderson Cooper, a woman straight asked him, like, young people with student loans are pushing for $50,000 forgiveness, which is still not a lot when, like, I'm one of those people that owe 6 figures to my student loan. And that's actually
Jesus.
the norm. Like, my generation, that's the norm. Younger generations got more smarter. And hopefully there will be free community college, right? So
Yeah.
she asked him, and he's like, oh no, that's never going to happen. It'll be lucky if 10,000 happens. Now, with that, he was 100% honest, like, nah. So it's already like one of the things you promised around student loan. You're like very good with just being like, nope, that's never going to happen. And, we'll have to figure something else out. Right.
Wow.
Second, they haven't stopped deportations.
Yep.
So just because they reinstituted DACA, they still haven't stopped deportations. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then he also said in that town hall that he wants to fund police officers even more around the country.
What?
So now you want to even give police officers more. And that's what happens. In fact, Minneapolis City Council, for all the stuff that they talked last week, gave Minneapolis police $6 million so they could hire more police. So like right, so like Minneapolis City Council, the next day they come out and they're marching with the people and they're saying this, and then less than a year after George Floyd, your response is to give police $6 million more to hire more police.
Yeah.
We're not winning these fights. We're not. Like, people think marching is we're not winning these fights. They're still killing us. They still he wants to give police more federal authority.
Yeah.
And they promised they weren't going to do that because that's what crooked ass politicians do. They lie.
I think one solution should be all of us getting on code and stopping the economic growth. If we all get, that's the only way, right?
Hell yeah, that's the only way. Look, right now, Amazon is paying millions of dollars to stop the workers in Alabama or Arkansas. From Arkansas for unionizing. It's looking right now that this Arkansas distribution center is going to get unionized. Once that happens, all Amazon employees are going to be like, all right, now let's push for unionization, which is still not about equity. We live in a society where a trillionaire exists, and the only reason you can even be a billionaire or trillionaire is because you've exploited probably millions of people, right? Yeah. So how is Jeff Bezos a trillionaire? That's because we live in a capitalist system that uses and abuses labor and will make you work, like a lot of our unfortunate Latino brothers and sisters in Iowa, till you die.
Yeah.
For chicken. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like the only way all this gets solved is complete dismantling of all systems and a move towards a social or a social economic order that is about equity. You know,
I believe in that. I think I don't know if we're moving towards that direction, but I think we're getting close to it, with cryptocurrency and stuff like that. So I believe we are moving in a uncentralized part of our society. I think we are just like how you were the witness of history of hip hop. I think we're becoming the witness of the history of centralized,
Yeah,
economics and being more economically independent.
yeah, no, I mean, that's what it's coming down to now. My brother explains to me what cryptocurrency is, but I also see how it's being used against Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico, where these
Yeah,
boys are like coming and snatching up land. But, all that being said, like the capitalist system is the problem,
yeah,
and it's going to continue to be the problem. And if COVID doesn't show that at the end, this society will make you a sacrificial worker, you're talking about a year where people haven't gotten no relief, 25 million pending evictions, and 5 million women have dropped out of the workforce. But yet they're like, let's keep this moving, let's keep it going, right? Because it's just is that part of the matrix of being in all of that, being the
yeah,
labor. And also with automation coming the way, see, this is why Walmart and all of them are succeeding in what they really want to do, which is automate. We don't need a cash register person anymore.
yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
does their own
Yep.
stuff.
I think
Yeah, we'll switch to delivery and make our brick and mortar stores more smaller. That's what they're doing. Target's doing, Amazon, right? And we've already fallen for it. A part of it
yeah,
is because first we don't have a choice. Like it's COVID, but
yeah,
second, within COVID, all these corporations have made profits
yeah,
while 20, 30, maybe even 50 million people are at their rope, not only financially, but
yeah.
mentally, physically, all of that.
I think you're right on that because if technology keeps on moving forward, like we see it now, everything's going to be automated. Nobody's going to have jobs, and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
go into this universal base income. And let's be honest, who are going to be the ones getting the most, and who are going to be the ones getting the least?
Right.
So we have to be very open and honest about that. But let's start wrapping it up right now, Rosa. Give the people one last affirmation that you want to give them, and let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, I would just always tell people what I've been told. You just organize wherever you're at. Like there's always work to be done, no matter how small or large your community is. Even during COVID, what we have seen in humanity is that we will help each other when we have to. We should always know that we can participate in our own local community in what way works for the person. I am on Instagram as Black Puerto Rican PhD, and then Facebook and Twitter is just straight Rosa Clemente. So that's how folks can find me, follow my work. Hit me up or my website, rosaclemente.net, not .com, but rosaclemente.net.
All right, and with that, I'm gonna bid everybody farewell. Peace.
Peace. Thank you for having me.
All right, now that was the interview with me and Rosa Clemente. Remember, all of her social media, her website will be in the link down below. Trust me, go follow her. Trust me, go subscribe. Even her YouTube channel. Trust me, go do that because she does bring in a lot of great knowledge to the game. Also, I don't know if you guys remember that Eva Longoria, actress who said what she said and kind of went all over the place. Rosa interviewed her and they basically broke it down. So go check that out, especially too. You know what I mean? So all of it will be down below. If you want to support the podcast, remember 5 stars on your favorite podcast app of your choice. Please rate it 5 stars, write a good review, and all of that. That definitely helps it out. Thumb up the video if this is on YouTube. Thumb up the video, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support me monetarily, Cash App or on my website, radicallatino.com, and there is a donate button to donate. You know what I'm saying? with if you guys want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the same name, radical_Latino_. And I'm gonna leave you guys how I always do. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. With that being said, I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.